Hey, everybody. Welcome to Making Connections. This is your girl, Allie. I hope everybody's having an amazing day. Listen, you saw the flyers that are going across the screen, different events and activities going on across the Queen City and surrounding areas. And so, you might want to check out the Facebook group. If you didn't catch the information, feel free to replay the video, pause it as you need it. But yeah, I always check out what's going on because could be a day they're feeding the homeless, could be a day they're giving away hygiene products. There is a employment fair going on there at the airport, so it's always something good. So, again, welcome. You guys know we're here every Saturday at 12 noon and every Monday at 2 p.m. Then we always have an exciting replays on Thursdays at 7. So make sure you tune in, follow us on Facebook, and yeah, let's do this thing. So, Slow Chemical, how you doing today?
I'm well. I'm well. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's been a minute, but welcome back. You've
It
been
has.
busy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have. So have you, and it's good to reconnect.
Yeah. So I know you a little bit, but maybe this is the first time some of our audience has seen you. So I want you to just, greet the audience, tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to jump into all the exciting things you have going on.
Sure. Name is Slow Chemicals, a stage name. Musician, producer, comic book creator, writer. Um, just all around creative person, and just trying to make my mark on this world without compromising. If that makes sense.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Some people would find that hard to do these days, but it can be done, right?
It it can be done. I had someone just tell me the other day, it's not easy. I said, well, if it was easy, everybody be doing it. So I mean, there you
Right,
go.
right. But you do have to make up your mind which way it's going to be for you, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So as you said, you are a writer, and Slow Chemical is your stage name as far as writing, right? Or do you write under Ryan? Your
I write under Ryan White, my real name. But most people just honestly, once they know my stage name, they don't even call me Ryan. They just call me Slow Chemical.
about Ryan? Who's Ryan? So where did that name come from?
So, early in my rap career, I didn't have a name. I was going by the name my uncle called me, DWB, Dirty White Boy, and I was looking for a real stage name. And I'm driving to the studio with another rapper. His name was Lyricist, and I was listening to this rock song from a wrestling theme song called "Slow Chemical." He's like, "Hey man, cut that off. I don't like rock and roll," which is weird because it was my car. But anyways, we get to the we get to the studio and I'm rapping. And I'm in one of the studios where you have the glass to where you can see the engineer in the studio room. And all of a sudden, I see him stand up as I'm rapping. He tells the engineer to stop the music, and then they say, "Hey," he says, "Hey, I know your rap name." I was like, "What is it?" He's like, "Your name is Slow Chemical." He's like, "Dude, that song." I don't. He's like, if that name fits you because your style is slow. Like people have to listen to what you're saying, and it just sets in like a chemical. And I wasn't too sure about it at first, and then I said it on a record, and someone was like, "Who's Slow Chemical?" I was like, "I'm thinking about using that as my stage name." He was like, "That's your name." Once I heard it again, I said, "Okay, that's my name then."
Oh wow, cool. Isn't it? It's amazing sometimes how names and just life comes to you. So that just kind of came to you. You didn't have to go looking for it.
Right, and I'll tell you right now, from being a comic book creator, the thing I hate doing the most is creating names because I do feel like the names, once people get used to it, they take it in, and that's when they start calling you by it. And they like example. I'm a huge 24 fan. I know Keith or Sutherland is a character, but if I see him, I'm gonna call him Jack Bauer.
Right, right.
So it's one of those things where I hate creating names. So as you said, life kind of just came to me, and after I heard it the second time, I didn't fight it. I just said, nope, this is the name.
Oh, that's cool. That just reminded me of a movie that I was watching. Now it's a movie, right? But it was a scene where a lady, she's watching soaps all the time, and she saw the guy that was cheating on like her favorite character, and she called him by the character name of the show, and she punched him. I mean, people, they know you as who they know you as.
Exactly.
It's like you can see actors in different um, scenes in different movies, but something like Carlton Banks, let's just say, we always know him, the little dance on Fresh Prince. So, but he's done well. He's got out of that. We see him as a lot of things, but you still always think of him in that way, right?
You will always identify him as Carlton, just because that's the role that probably definitely put him on the map, and he doesn't. He's one of the few. This is a different conversation, but he's one of the few um, artists or talents, whatever you want to call them, that I've heard him say in interviews. He does not mind being called that because that's the role that made him who he is. But there's some talented people who hate. They don't want to be associated with it. They hate Mark Paul Gosselaar, the one who plays Zach Morris. He hates being called Zach Morris because he hated what the character did for him after that. He kept being typecast.
Mm,
So he absolutely hates it, and I get it to a degree, but at the same time, I just feel like when I identify you, it's a good thing. For me, it's a good thing. It's like I was so invested in that character, and you meant so much to me in that character. I don't see it.
right.
I don't see it as a negative, but some people do.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to say I get their point, but you're right. It's like you said, I mean, you become part of my family, as this character. And so whatever that character means to me, whether it inspired me or it caused me to be stronger, I think that's a testament to your abilities. So,
Absolutely. I never. Um, I've always. I don't. I remember his real name, but he will always be Uncle Phil. That was just such a defining. I know he. And the funny thing is, Uncle Phil. He played a voice actor in several comic book roles that I love. He did a lot of things I love after it, but for me, that role of Uncle Phil was so iconic, and he is a man that sometimes you look at it like, man, I want to be like Uncle Phil. I want to have my stuff together. I want to be able to teach, as well as having that strong wife by my side and being able to check me. Like it, I just feel like you sometimes need to let go of some of the hatred and realize that it's part of the journey that got you to where you are now.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, now that we talked about them, let's talk more about the slow killer. And I know right before we came on, I was like, "What is that on your wall?" I was thinking it might have been comic book covers that you have made, but you said they're action figures.
Yeah, so this right here is actually a cover that was made for me. I got invited to New York Comic Con in 2018, and a fan made that for me on my way there, and I've always kept it. I had a shirt that I wore that entire weekend. I sold a few shirts off it too. I'm an action figure collector, and so this is actually one of my. You can't see it because of the blue light. That is one of my action figures for my own character. I'm a huge collector. All these things that's on the wall of. I think they've been autographed by a lot of people here. It's between wrestling and comic books. So yeah, I'm still a collector. I do have a complaint though. It's
Uh-oh.
kind of unfair. Uh, I think we all have a hobby. I think if you're trying to live your best life, you have a hobby, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being a adult collector is a rough hobby, not because it's expensive, but because when you meet a lot of these talented people, they assume you want to sell your stuff on eBay. So they kind of treat you badly sometimes. They
Mm-hmm.
sometimes just assume, well, this person's not really a fan. He just wants to sell my stuff, and it's like I don't have time to sell your stuff, man. It's just, you
When
know,
I say I'm a fan, I'm a fan. Okay.
right? And when actually it's funny because when I got invited to New York Comic Con, I got invited one that year with my friend, and he made a great point to me. He said it's hard to still do what you do if you're not a fan anymore. You have to be a fan of the art. And I remember he said it to me because Mark Ruffalo was there that year,
Okay.
and I had this cool. I still have it somewhere here. I have this cool action figure of a Hulk versus a Hulkbuster. I was like, should I get this autograph? He was like, man, you're a fan. Never lose that. It'll make you a better creator. It'll make you a better writer. So you can miss me waiting this long, ridiculous line for this autograph. It was worth it, but like, and he was super nice. But no, and I agree with that. And that actually helps me with my creations because I still am fans. Like the reason I even got into writing is because of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So seeing Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird and stuff like that, that just that fuels my creativity.
Well, that kind of leads me into my next question, which, but I won't do want to comment on that. I do think that that is a good point. You have to always continue to be a fan because, when you're a fan, you always look at it different. When you're a fan, you're always excited. What's next, what's happening, who's coming on the scene. So, and I think even in life, whatever you're doing, you have to be a fan of it. Whether it's music, whether it's writing, whether it's you know even if you're being an entrepreneur, a coach, or whatever, you always have to be a fan of what you're doing and still love it in order to be the best at whatever you're doing, right?
I 100% agree with that because when I hear something and for me it's always friendly competition. So when I hear something and whether it's another rapper, another producer, whatever, and someone tells me, "Man, that's the best thing I've heard." No, it's not. You haven't heard me yet. Let me, that's good, but it just keeps the fire going for me, and it also just keeps me also thinking out the box as well
Mm,
and seeing those type of things. So I agree, and I always like taking nuggets like that. I always like one of the best things you can do if you're a comic book creator is going to comic cons. Don't stay. I mean, it's easy for me to say because I'm single with no kids. But if you have the opportunity to go to comic cons and promote your stuff, you will get no better ideas than that place. You will not be more motivated than seeing a bunch of people that are your people walking around looking for different worlds to invest themselves in. And it
oh,
just motivates me even more when I deal with other artists as well. Because I don't deal with other artists all the time, my personal life. So when I get the chance to do it at cons, it just I hear stuff like that, and it makes me better. I feel like.
hmm. I know I have a coworker who goes to, I think, like some local Comic Cons. I can't remember the biggest one he's ever went to, but I don't know. Just hear him talking about it, I was like, would that be a cool experience just to go and see that? Because I'm a fan of, comic book characters, so I think that would be cool.
Oh, I always encourage people to go, and it's not like it's one of those things where I want to watch how I say this. It's not once again, it depends on your lifestyle. I get this, but usually it's between $30 to $50 to get in. Most Comic Cons now, especially since there's a writer strike going and an actor strike going, they've gotten even cheaper. So it's like $25 to get in for one
Hmm.
day. You can walk around. The only thing I don't suggest it's really an event, so I do not suggest you get something to eat there. It's like being at a baseball game; it's super expensive.
Right.
That's the whole difference. That's the whole thing.
The
But you can
ticket was 25 and your hot dog was 55.
right, and the ketchup was maybe the ketchup was free, right? Um,
Ketchup, but not mustard and ketchup. You gotta take
no, so you gotta be careful there. But
Yeah,
you can walk around and just immerse yourself in this world where you see people being who they want to be. Like I want, and that's why I want to be clear when I say this. I'm just being as respectful as possible. But like people who normally wouldn't feel comfortable dressing up as Harley Quinn or the Joker, they're gonna dress up and they're gonna be who they want to be for that day, for that moment,
exactly.
and they look good doing it. They invest their time into these things. So I highly recommend going. Usually when I'm at different Comic Cons, I don't know if Jay told you this, but if I ever get invited to a Comic Con in, I don't know, Chicago or whatever, if I have extra tickets, I give them to people. Say, hey man, just come. Just
Oh, that's cool.
enjoy. I'm not looking for anything out of it. You don't have to buy anything from me, but just I think it gives people a different experience because it's everyone is so quick to say we're nerds. Everyone's a nerd for something.
Exactly.
So
True.
just walk around, and there's some. I've met people there who do quilting. They literally travel around the world quilting, and they
Wow.
do different kinds of quilts. Someone likes quilts. I know my aunt does. So it's
Right.
just it's I highly recommend it.
Those are our favorite Christmas presents.
Yeah, exactly. And you can get one made right in front of your face, or someone can say, "Hey, I'll
Yeah.
put one together," and or I can email it, or I can mail it to you. Excuse me, not email, email it to you. And if it's something really specific or whatever,
Hmm.
it's different. It's just a different way to see life. It's fun.
That's cool because I know he when he told me the price, I think it was like $20, and I was like, "That's all, $20? Okay, I'm in."
Now, once
It hasn't come yet, so I haven't been yet, but I'm excited about it.
oh yeah, now if you try and go to the bigger Comic Cons like New York Comic Con or
Oh yeah.
San Diego Comic Con, that's gonna be like $50. It's look here. I only went to New York Comic Con once, and that's because I was invited. I would have paid for it if I needed to. It was well worth the experience, um, and for me, it was good to see that because I still have a huge goal of several goals left, but I have a goal of being invited to San Diego Comic Con one day, and I know I will. So
Awesome. Yes. I can't wait. Let us know when it happens.
I will.
Awesome. And so, not only are you a comic book writer, but you write music, you're a rapper, like you said, producer, all these good things. So, what have you been? I know we're going to be playing one of your songs. So tell us about that part of your world. How do you juggle everything you do?
Um, Music was first. I didn't start writing comic books until my it was my first year in college, and I met a guy through an advisor. That's how I got into comic books. It wasn't meant to be like this. It was just I had this goal of doing one thing, and then it evolved. But music was first. I got really big into music, ironically, on 9/11, 2001, when I was in military school. Was I was in military school, and we were just rapping, freestyling in military school. And I had one of the sergeants, Sergeant Shea, pulled me to the side and said, "Hey, man, you're a decent writer. I don't know anything about rap. I'm not a rapper, but this is like when I've seen you write and read some of your stuff behind your back, like you have something. You need to pursue that probably." I didn't think anything of it until me and my brother start taking it a little more serious. And long story short, I once I got to doing rapping and music and the comic books, I learned that you can't force something. I
Mhm.
may want to write an issue of Messina, which is my comic, but I'm getting roadblocks. So if I have a verse I need to write or a beat to make, I just need to focus on that. Um, God has allowed me to be able to write both of them at the same time. Now, I want to say since 2020, since the pandemic really hit,
Mhm.
I've been in the zone with both to where like one day I may not be in the zone with music, but I'm writing an issue of a comic book, but it's like the next day I'm writing a verse. So I kind of see that as I don't kind of, I see that as a blessing. Like, okay, I know how to do this juggling. Like, I don't have to force anything. And that's a good thing. For a while, I did feel like I had to force stuff.
That's amazing, to be able to find that flow, you know, and to not get frustrated when you're stuck over here or you don't know what the next line is going to be, but you take your break and you're like, well, let me flow over here. So, that definitely is a blessing.
Yeah, it is. And I'm thankful for it.
Yeah. And I can't remember what was the name of your last book you produced, the comic book.
It is Messina. Oh, no, no, no. Actually, no. The one that we did this year is a one shot comic called Civilized Savage that
Yeah.
dropped in February.
Yeah.
Um, Really happy with the response. We actually did a soundtrack to that as well, which came out pretty well too.
Awesome. I know I'm bad. This year's been a crazy year for me, but I'm grateful for every journey, every experience I've had. But I know that I didn't get the book yet, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to advertise. So I know we were in the book, but I just haven't purchased it yet.
You never got the copy I mailed to you?
Mm-mm. But it's
Um,
okay. I mean, we'll talk about that
yeah,
offline.
we'll talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just an honor because I know that there's a lot of people looking at your comic books, and so just having the opportunity, to be a part of that, and I think opening that up to people is such a blessing.
Oh yeah, and thank you for being a part of it. And actually, it was Jay's idea to do it. I never thought of it. I never thought anyone would want to be in the book, and it was a privilege for people who wanted to be in it and show and show what means something to them and what they're doing. And um, if we can help what I'm big on helping each other out. If we can help each other out, for me, it just makes each of us get stronger, better, and we can grow together. We don't actually have to grow apart. We can grow together, and it can be your lane doesn't have to impede on my lane. You know.
Thank you. Say that again.
so
You
many
know,
people, so many people think that.
and that's why I love all the people that come on the show because they are so cool people, and they're willing to help others. They're willing to lend a hand, give advice, different things, and I think that's so cool because in our mind and with society, it always tells us there's like only one number one, right?
Hmm.
And so there's only one spot to be at the top, but that's such a lie.
I agree 100%. It's something that told I remember I'll never forget. I was at Atlanta Comic Con like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. And I'm sitting at this my booth right next to two other people, two very talented people. And I had a young lady. I want to say she was no older than 9 years old. Walk up to my booth. I'll never forget her. She walked up. She had her own money. Her dad was there. She's looking at my stuff. She's only like looking at my stuff. And I honestly not afraid to say this. I don't know how to sell to a child. So I'm sitting there just like watching, and her dad's just like on his phone, and he's just making sure she's safe. And she's looking at me, and when I mean she grilled me.
Are you
And
serious?
I am dead serious. She's like, hey, this character right here, I've read this before. Why does he do this and why does he do that?
Oh my
And
gosh.
then she asked me a really good question that even adults have never asked me. She says, I bought your books before just because I saw it online. Why should I buy it right now? She's like, what? Why shouldn't I buy her books? I said, because she doesn't do what I do and I don't do what she does.
Wow.
She is a very talented artist that can make a funny picture of you right now. I don't know how to do that. That's not my gift.
Mhm.
And she was like, she looked at me with this like mean look. I'll accept that answer. She was like, because I like both of you guys, and I like you guys a lot. And
Oh.
I, it's amazing. That's why I said these events you have to go to believe it, because I would have never imagined someone would have let their
Mhm.
9 year old daughter purchase my book online, and even how they found it. And it's not that excuse me, it's not that my comics are not for kids. Like I only have one comic that's strictly for adults, but sometimes I forget being in the creative mode that
Mhm.
um, anyone can pick up your stuff at any given time. And when I mean she was knowledgeable of things,
Wow.
it was crazy. And then when she left, my neighbor was like, for so long I would have sat there and been like trying to sell her on me and not you. But she was like you sold both of us at the same time. I was like,
Yeah.
because I don't need to bring you down. I really do feel that way. I don't need to. You know,
Right.
like hip hop is naturally competitive, so I don't mind being competitive in that format because I know once again what I do and what someone else does isn't the same thing. But it doesn't mean I need to go behind your back, talk to promoters, tear you down. I don't need to do all that. If someone
Right.
wants me, they'll take me. Someone wants you, they'll take you.
Right. Right. Whew. Listen, I hope y'all go back and replay this. This is how we need to live our lives because it's so much out there for all of us, and we just be yourself and be authentic about who you are. Then that's when it happens. Like the your neighbor was saying, she probably was more thinking about her sales, her
Mm.
income, and she was like, I would have been, and it was cool that she was truthful, but I think
Oh
you
yeah.
even taught her something that day.
Oh yeah, for sure. And her and I've stayed in contact since, and um, I, I think once certain people realize that, and this comes, in my opinion, it comes from workplace mentality as well, where it's very competitive there. Your boss will put you against your coworkers, and you know, I realized from working enough jobs, there are some people who just don't know when they're being played,
Mm, true.
and I can't be mad at those people because I may have more experience than them. I was lucky enough to where when I first got into my first corporate job, I'm doing air quotes, I had two people. I still had to learn. I still had some frustrations. I had two great people who were like heads of the company at the time. Whenever I make a mistake, they'll pull me in. Ryan, and you fell for it, man. You fell for the trap. Shouldn't have fallen for the trap. And they would put me to the side and have these long, private conversations with me. And I didn't get it at the time. And as I've gotten older, I said, okay, can't do that. I don't need to do that, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
one of those things is the cream always rises to the top. So hopefully people believe that, man. I do. I really do. I live my life that way. And I'm not going to lie, it's gotten me pretty far. And I know it's going to take me farther.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. Listen, I love having these conversations. But I definitely want to get to your music. So tell us about the song that we're going to be listening to. I know Jay sent us levels, and so just set it up for us a little bit.
He loves that song. So me and a producer named Jim Star Pro out of Maryland, we created the beat together. I had the chorus already, and he loved, and Jim Star loved the chorus too. So we made the beat, and the song is essentially about what I'm talking about in it is essentially the struggles you have as you move up in life, and it's different levels. Like the chorus says, there's many levels in this game, different devils in this game. For every level you step up, there's always someone willing to push back. There's always someone trying to bring you back down to their level. You have to keep moving up. So essentially, that's what this song is about.
All right. Well, listen, y'all stay tuned. We're going to be back after this song to talk to more to Slow Chemical about what else he has going on. But right now, we're going to listen to Levels. Stay tuned.
I know it's my time to prove a master with the rhyme. I'm cool with my 15 minutes, do the math. 15 with music, 15 with comics, 15 with movies. That's almost an hour to get any and everything I ever desired. Can you still call that broke? Then we ain't speaking the same language. My lexicon is dangerous, that's why I had to major in this. Getting on the record with me, it's like getting on the stage at the Source Awards in the 90s. I'm just starting to understand the power of the mic, the power of the hype. Brother never understood the power of the pipe. It's all good, ma. There's no handbook to parenting. You did in every city, Louisiana, Atlanta, and Maryland. But remember, we carry our own cross. You can't account for every sin. I'll take the baton from my kids so they know what they inherited. Bill collectors, I never want them to be scared of them. It's gonna be some close shaves, but it's still here with them. As you move up the levels, have respect with no fear of them. There's levels in this game. Many levels in this game. Levels in this game. Devils in this game. Devils in this game. Many levels in this game. Levels in this game. Devils in this game. Devils in this game. Many levels in this game. Levels in this game. Devils in this game. Devils in this game. Many levels in this game. Levels in this game. Devils in this game. Devils in this game. This might be a brash theme, but me and the devil a tag team. We keep a black and blue theme. Black guy be Shawn Michaels too with Mari Jannetty. Too many secrets like Hetty, but keeps me in the mix like spaghetti. Speed through life, Mario Andretti. Fast but steady, I walked in danger zone. Folks want to dip me. I knew it wasn't my hood, but there was no other way to get home. I did want the violence, but what's the other way to the throne? Oh, now we talking about desire and power. What were you supposed to speak out? Where were you the last hour? Watch you praise on. You might get preyed on. Now we're talking dangerous liaisons. Playing the game without the save on. Can you maintain if you're not mentally strong? I see their booty is strong. How can it maintain that thong? I told you, we a tag team. We were never destined to win. We were destined to split. The game's too shady. I had to split. I never went ghost. I walked out the front door and said bye before I left. And the game got many levels. Watch what level you on. Many levels in this game. Levels in this game. Devils in this game. Devils in this game. Many levels in this game. Levels in this game. Devils in this game. Devils in this game. Many levels in this game. Levels in this game. Devils in this game. Devils in this game. Many levels in this game. Levels in this game. Devils in this game. Devils in this game. I got jealous. They ain't used to sing to me. Now they singing to you. They left me. I was doing dirt. I was gonna come right back. Back with the plaque. Back with the mask. The ugly is way too much to conceal it. It scared my loved ones. I had to reveal it. You couldn't predict it. It's no precision, but I persisted. Went from teachers trying to fight me to being uplifted. I thought I was done. My game shifted. I sifted through many levels, many evils, many devils. Devils in this game. Many levels in this game. Levels in this game. Devils in this game. Devils in this
Welcome back, everybody. We were listening to Levels by Slow Chemical. I like that. Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. And, again, it just reminds me that wherever you are in life, there are levels to this life. There are levels to every relationship, every, work experience. Like you said, sometimes you might start off in one industry, but you realize this isn't for me. So, you start searching for who you are and where you can flow and where you can be the best that you can be. But I think a lot of time people settle in levels because they're scared to go to the next one, or they don't know what the next one's going to look like. They don't know what the next one is going to require of them. Do you find that to be true?
That's very true, and it's actually funny because I realized that a few years ago, and I was living in Colorado, and I knew I needed to make another move. I was, I'll just be honest, I was just scared to go because I was like, I know where I want to go, but I would like to go there with a job. I would like to go there and kind of set some things up and not be struggling and just frustrated and stuff like that. Because I do believe things don't come when you need them to come when they're supposed to come, whenever that is, you know.
Right.
But I just didn't want to because I have limited resources. Limited people can help me, and so I just said, let me just try to be smart about it. And I got to the point where I said, I need to make a move. I don't know, and I was too scared. And then finally, um, I don't know. I guess I don't know how this is gonna sound, but last year around this time, ironically, I just was on the phone with my aunt, and I was like, man, for some reason, I think I won't be in Colorado another year. So she said, where you going? I said, I have no clue, but I just get a feeling that my time is running out here.
Mm-hmm.
4 months later, I got an offer to go to where I am now, and
Wow.
I didn't have that offer on the table at the time, you know, and it
Mm-hmm.
just came, but it was from being persistent as well, um, and also me. I believe this to be the real reason is for me finally not being willing to stay at the level I was at. I seen that I was highly underpaid, highly undervalued. And I remember I kept saying this out loud for like 2 months straight. I said it every day for 2 months because I would be so frustrated. I was like, I can do more. I'm supposed to do more.
Mm, wow.
I had never found myself saying that in my life. Like I always had this I call it a scary mentality now, but I felt like how early Kanye West sounded when he was like, I want to make $1 million and disappear. That's how I really used to feel.
Mm,
And that changed the more I've put myself out there, the more I've talked to people like yourself and Jay, and realizing that it's okay to live life. It's okay to have fun, and it's okay to just put your gifts out there and promote your gifts and things like that, and be who you are. And so, yes, I do believe that, and I do believe that's how so many people get stuck. Is just honestly, I think it's fear a lot of times.
yeah. And I can speak on that because I know that's how I have been. And that's even sometimes today with the vision that I have, sometimes today I still have to talk myself through it. And so that's why I say I know it happens to people, but, I just want to be so encouraging that, you can make it, know that there are levels to this life, and seasons change. And so if you, if like you say, stay persistent, stay consistent at what you want to do. And I think even like you were saying, for you to say that out loud, I believe in manifestation. So that the words of your mouth will manifest things into your life. That's just what I believe. You don't have to believe it if you're listening, but that's what I believe. So I just think that the more we speak positivity, the more we say, look, I'm worth it. I deserve more. Because until you realize that, you're just going to settle and you're going to accept what other people are willing to give you.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. And I actually have a friend who, when I first met him about 9, 10 years ago, he always said to me, I wasn't a negative person, but I very much was I was down on myself. I was a negative Nancy towards myself. And
Mm,
one day he stopped me. I was in the middle of whatever a rant, and he said, Ryan, you're not gonna get anywhere. You're manifesting negativity. You will get nowhere. You need to stop. And that's just not the way he is. He's a very quiet, soft-spoken guy. When he cut me off that way, I was like, oh, okay. it woke me up and made me realize to myself that okay, I am getting everything I'm asking for. It's just not it's not good stuff. I am getting the negative stuff that I'm saying is going to happen to me. Um,
Yeah.
and I also believe in also in as well as writing things down. You know, writing things down, saying, "Hey, I want to do this, so I'm going to do this." Like, I got back to doing that because for as much as I do write, um, sometimes I have these things in my head that I know are never going to leave my head. You know,
Mm,
I know I want to be successful, right? Complete, but sometimes I feel like I just need to take those and I start putting those on paper as well. Like, hey, I want to do this year. I want to do this because it's a constant reminder because I'm constantly writing of me to say those things out loud as well, and not just keep them in my head. So no, I 100% agree with you.
yeah. And I think too, writing it down and you see it, because sometimes, like, even in life, I'll be like, I need to do this, but then something will happen and I forget it for a moment. And then, but when I have it written down, I can always go back to this book and be like, okay, where was I supposed to be? What task am I on? And so, what goal am I working towards? What financial status am I looking for? I
Mm,
mean, I believe everything is possible to us if we believe that it's possible to us.
absolutely, absolutely, and you just as corny as it sounds, you really just have to believe in yourself. And I've been very fortunate to once I started embracing my gifts, I didn't start listening to people when they would say, "Hey, man," and one thing I always hear this no matter what, especially with my rapping, more so the rapping than the comic books. The rapping is, like, I don't know why I like your style, but I love your style. And I used to be so offended by that. Like, why don't you know? You know, but that doesn't
Right.
matter. Like, one of the rapper that really influenced me the most was LL Cool J. I couldn't tell you why. It was just something about his presence that drew me in. I still remember the song that drew me in. It's called "Hey Love," featuring him and Boys to Men, and
Mhm.
that song is about a good-looking guy with money fantasizing about a woman that he knows he'll never have. And I used to be a very shy kid, so that just connected with me, and it made me go through his entire discography, and I didn't know at first why. So, but when people say it now, I now take it as I touched you somewhere, somewhere along the lines you felt something,
Right.
and that's all. I'll leave it there, and I'm grateful for
Right. Right. That part, I'm grateful for it. Woo, that's a whole nother subject.
it.
But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of times we don't understand why. You were like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm helping this person, but it's just something you're supposed to do, and that's just life. And I believe when you flow in that obedience, something is going to come back to you somewhere down the line.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I know you were talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles earlier,
Hmm.
and that kind of got you jump started on your writing. Is that what you said earlier?
Yeah, essentially, I didn't. I've had to think about this for a long time. When you have enough interviews, you realize your first influences. Even though I wasn't necessarily writing at the time because I was too young, but TMNT, that was probably the biggest influence, just because they Kevin Eastman and Pierre Lair are so creative with everything. It's not just about Ninja Turtles, which is a whole different thing. You look at all the different variants of them and the different iterations of them and the things they've done. It just you can tell once they got the ball going, there was no limits. There was no ceilings on anything they wanted to do. And um, as I did start writing more comic books, I really started anytime I would put myself in a box creatively, I would say no. I need to think out the box. I would put the pen down. I would put the computer down. And I would just nope. This feels like I'm putting myself in this box where this character has to be this or has to be this. Like I personally, I love writing women characters. I don't know why that became a thing, but I love writing women characters. And I think it's because honestly, um, how I got myself through college was working in strip clubs and being around a number of women. And let me tell you something. I'm never going to pretend to be a woman's advocate, but boy, oh boy, do y'all deal with some stuff. Jeez. Holy crap.
Look, I'm grateful you give us credit for that.
So it's just it helped. It really did help my writing. Also, sitting down with some of these women who have now become friends and just talking to them about certain things that I would never even guess or know unless we talked, you know. And
Hmm.
so I take a lot of that experience with the TMNT and the no limits type of thing, and I just combine them both. And if I'm being honest, yeah, other comic books might have a little bit of influence here and there, but for the most part, TMNT is the one that I look to say, I know I can do better than the idea I have. The first idea isn't always the best idea.
Right. Awesome. Listen, I'm excited. I okay. Anyway, I'm excited about Comic Con. I'm excited about a lot of things. I'm just like I was sitting here even having. I need to talk to him about this thought I'm having here. But anyway, back to this interview. So I know you mentioned too. Your latest is Messina.
Yeah, the one that I'm dropping actually next month in October will be Messina issue 6. It picks right up where issue 5 left off. Essentially, just to catch some people up, if you don't know, please check it out on Google Play. But I'm doing this story in 3 parts, and the first part already finished, which was issue 0 through issue 5. Essentially, it was this big fight in issue 5 that led to a lot of destruction in DC, fictional DC, and now it's kind of like the aftermath of that, and we're moving forward towards in part 2 of the story. I'm excited about it. It mainly features really a comic book favorite character named Snake Root and Adrena, and so I'm really excited about this because Messina has been like an example for those of you comic book fans. You guys all know Todd McFarlane's baby is Spawn, and I have a similar story with Messina. I always have Messina in my head as a Samoan superhero. He was actually the first superhero I created. I didn't know how to visualize him though. I didn't know how he would look. I went to several different Comic Cons when I was just doing panels or whatever, and I would go to Artist Alley and I would find different artists to draw me this character. No one could really get the vision I had because I didn't have it the correct way at the time, and now I have him down. I'm excited. People like the character. I'm excited people are reading the comic book. This will be the next chapter in the story, and I'm excited to see what people think about it.
Awesome. So that was one of my questions too. These characters, how do you bring them to life? How do you know what character flows with another character? Like which two characters should be in a scene together? All that stuff. How do you put that together?
Oh, that was trial and error. I'll be the first to admit I have a lot of my first books on sale still, just because I'll be the first to tell you they weren't good. It was a lot of me learning the process, and I'm glad you asked that question. That's actually a great question. What I would do was I was doing too much. I was trying to build a world before I knew how to build a universe. And what happened was I ended up doing this comic book called the Geneva Convention, and it was always meant to be one story, just 5 issues, and that's it. And I decided at that time I was going to introduce Messina into that story, and Messina was introduced into it, and I came up with a side character that kind of fit. And at the time, I didn't know if I was still going to do one, but I was happy to finally get Messina in a comic book. And what I decided to do before issue 1, and the pandemic did a lot of things negative, but for me, this is where it was such a blessing for me. So in Colorado, March 14th, 2020 is when we shut down. And I remember by March 20th, I had been struggling for 2 years to come up with a story for Messina. By March 20th, I had the entire Messina story.
Oh wow.
And I ended up creating, and the first thing I did something different that I'd never done before. Instead of me focusing on Messina, I know who he is at this point. What's his lore? What's his myth? Who are the people around him that makes him who he is?
Mm.
And I started just writing characters, and just obviously not every character made it. But the reality was I needed to grow the world around him, which really helped the story come together. And that's even how this character, Snake Root, came about. I was talking to this artist I work with, and I told him about this idea. I told him about this name I had, and we created this cool, really cool logo for her. And I said, okay, I know exactly what she needs to be. I know where she needs to go. Once we had that logo, it was just off to the races.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I did it, just trial and error. You know, my early comic books, they may not be the greatest thing, and I know that, I can recognize that, but it helped me be able to sit down and say, okay, I'm doing too much here. What do I need to do here? And for me, the main character is easy to write. It's the surrounding characters. You need to have strong supporting cast to understand the main. To me, that's why 24 is actually my favorite show of all time. I love Jack Bauer, but his supporting cast is what makes him who he is. It builds his lore and myth, and it makes him do the things that sometimes he should do, sometimes he shouldn't
True. That is a good show. I like that show too.
do.
Well, that's cool. So that makes sense, because I often wonder, how do people put things? Because sometimes I'll sit down to try to write something, and not necessarily a book or anything, but just some thoughts about stuff, and I'll be like, but then I sit down and I'm just like, I can't even get it out. So I tend to get stuck. So like, if somebody asks you a question and they're like, I just get stuck. I have all this stuff in my mind, but when I sit down to write, I get stuck. What would be some advice you could give to somebody?
One sentence at a time. That's all you can do. You can't do anything else. If you're stuck, first of all, if you're stuck, you're probably overthinking it. One, but two, what my rule is I do one sentence at a time. If nothing comes to me, cool. I know something will eventually come to me. But also, what helps also is if you're not really a writer by trade. I'm doing air quotes again, guys. um, you shouldn't think that it just comes to writers. It doesn't. It's really a process. And for me, I went to school for creative writing, so not every tactic in school works. You just have to find out what works for you. But what I found for me that helped me was just trial and error. I can write a whole 2 pages of something. I'll take probably a paragraph from those 2 pages, but that's still a victory because I at least have a direction.
Right.
You know, sometimes you're not stuck. Sometimes you're just like, I don't like that. Always write it down, type it, whatever you're doing. Always write. That's what I do now. Like this new album I have coming out. I did a song where I wrote 8 different verses, and my final verse was pieces of each verse.
Oh wow.
And that's just the way it was. I just didn't like everything I was putting down. It just doesn't come to people, not every time. Sometimes it does, and that's just the magic and of the creative process. But most times it's very normal just to be like, well, I don't like that, and it's easy to put the pen down. It's harder to keep it up. So I would always suggest writing at least 2-3 paragraphs, and then if you feel stuck after that, that's cool. Come back to it and read it though. Read it and say, hey, let me see what I can nitpick from this and grab from this. There's always something in there. Always.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Just keep writing and then come back. And yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I don't quite like this with this color. This this goes here. This sounds better. So yeah, it's a process, right? It's
It,
a
it,
process.
it is. And I'll give you another quick story. The guy who created The Martian, the movie that had Matt Damon in it, what he did was he wrote that book with fan help. He had a blog. He wrote
Hmm.
the first page. He sent it out to his the people who followed his blog. He said, "Hey, I need honest feedback. Do not be mean. Just give me feedback." By the time he was done, all the feedback that he gotten, whether it was good, whether it was bad, he would at least look at certain things he had in that book, and all of a sudden, now he has a great book, and he has a movie to go along with it because he was not afraid to put it out there to his people.
Mhm.
And there's also different ways of doing it now. You have stuff called Substack and all these places you can go to where you can just write, send it out to your audience, and they can give you feedback on it, and then you go from there and just say, hey, this is what I want to do. And even if you don't like ideas, you might like your idea. That's okay. You don't have to go with their idea.
Right, that part. But that's kind of cool though, because you're sending it out to people who like what you do, and this is how they want to see. They would like to see the characters, develop. So that's cool.
Absolutely.
I love it. Good job. Listen, you've given us a lot of information. So, I know you're working on the album. Did we have a name to the album yet?
We do. It's coming out November. It's called The Uninvited Guest.
Oh, tell us about that.
Um, so essentially, the name of the album was called Privacy is an Illusion. But as I was recording it, I've been recording this for the last 3 years now. And as I was recording it, I wasn't feeling like I was hitting on the topic very much.
Mm-hmm.
And then last year, Joe Burrow, who was the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, he won a playoff game, and I think it was in Buffalo, and he put a tweet out that said "uninvited guests," and that just clicked off in my head because my songs that I had been recording, I had been talking a lot about being essentially the uninvited guest without saying it. Like I have a song called "Peeping Tom." uh, where I'm talking about my relationship with. You said something earlier that was so key. You said how we have different levels of even relationships, and I remember I wrote that song "Peeping Tom" because sometimes in my friendships, people are making me feel like I had to sneak into their wall just to understand where our relationship was.
Mm-hmm.
And so that once we get the title, we kind of put that all those things together, and I'm super excited about it. The first single is called "How You Feeling." I'm gonna drop that video the very beginning of November. Um, I feel like this is my debut album. I say I feel like I know this will take me to the next level. I do have two features on it, Jonathan Esther and Zachavelli. I'm really excited about this.
Awesome. You got a lot coming up at the end of the year.
I do.
Book
It wasn't
dropping.
designed to be that way, but it came out that way. So
Listen, that's how it's designed. We're going to end the year strong.
absolutely, I'm excited for it.
And oh, and I do know that I don't know if they have many days left, but I know you were also offering opportunities again for ads in your book, right?
Oh yeah,
Or
yeah.
are those filled up?
No, I don't think. Well, you know what? That's a lie. I don't know. That's anyone who knows my manager Jonathan Coleman. He can answer those questions. He would know.
Okay.
It is coming up though. I know that I do know the time is coming up. I believe it's what's the date? The date's the 12th. I believe it's the end of next week. Will be the end of that opportunity.
Okay. Okay. So I'll definitely reach out to Jonathan before I put the link, in the description of the video to make sure they're still open before I do that.
Yeah, yeah. I've taken a back seat to the business once I got a manager. I kind of wanted to focus on the creative aspect of things because I just needed to lock in.
Yeah, yeah. So let's end our conversation on that. How important is like the team? I know sometimes people put like their best friends on their team, or
Mhm.
their childhood, friends and stuff like that, or their uncle. But sometimes you gotta be like, can you just be my fan and not be on the team? Like you're on the team because you're still rooting for me. You're but how important is it to have a true functioning team that sees your vision?
It's very true. It's very important. That's what I was looking for because, and you asked all the tough questions, but good questions today. It's very important. It's very key because here's the thing: someone can be your biggest fan, but they don't know how to support you in the business aspect of things. Some people don't know business,
Right.
and honestly, that's probably not their position to know business. And the reality is that I've had managers before Jay, but they understand the business side of it. They would tell me, "Hey, we should just do this, this, and this." I'm like, "Oh, all right, cool. How are we gonna make this happen?" And they would say, "I don't know." Well, okay, if you're gonna present this, you should probably know or have a plan in
A
place.
few
And
details.
right, just a few, that helps. But I think some people are so excited just to be on a team. And sometimes I had one person who was on the team at one, this is a long time ago. He had released some stuff via social media that was not ready to be released.
Mhm.
And he was like, well, I just want support. So I get that. But like, if you would have paid attention in our meeting, you would have known that this was not going to be ready to be promoted until this date.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, and you will hear some of the most famous people say it. Like Snoop Dogg just did an interview. Snoop Dogg said he has 11 friends. He said 11 friends that have nothing to do with any of my business. They're just friends.
Right.
He says the business people are the business people. Sometimes they may turn into friends, but at the end
Right.
of the day, they're business people. It's important. And as I've grown, the one thing that was key, I don't remember how long Jay's been managing me. I think probably a year now, maybe a little bit more. But I remember as we started venturing on this together, it came because my cousin actually had a conversation with me. He said, "Brian, it's time for you to be the artist. You need to find a real manager." He was like, "You don't have time to focus." I did a song that I really liked, and he liked it, and I put it on. I put it out there, and he says, "This song is too good for you just to be promoting it by yourself. You need to find a manager. You need to have help on this." And once he said that, because my cousin never speaks in my business. He never does. And when he
Right.
said that, it was like cool. So it's very important. You can't do everything alone. I can't be everywhere, and I realized that 2 years ago, 2021, when the world started to open up a little bit, and I got invited to three different Comic Cons on the same weekend. I had
Oh
a show,
wow.
I had a show, and I decided to go with the Comic Con that had the show in the same city because that's double. Um, but at the same time, it's one of those things where sometimes people they can feel slighted, and so one of the Comic Cons did feel slighted. I
Mm-hmm.
ended up patching that up with them, saying, "Hey, this is what I do." Like that particular person didn't know I had did music as well,
Gotcha.
but they gave me an opportunity before. That's why they felt kind of slighted. And I look here, I'm not one of those people that says it's not personal as business because my business is personal to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important, and I would always recommend you not only find a manager, but find someone that clicks with you and has the same goals and desires as you.
Gotcha. You heard it here. It's important. Listen, because what you do is important. So, is there's different levels. And there was at a time, even for me at the show, I was able to do all the flyers. I was able to do social media. I was like, baby, I need some help before this whole thing gets shut down. And so I had to understand I had to release a little something. This is still my baby. This is still my project. But if I really want this project to grow, I need some help. So I appreciate that input. So true. Well, can you believe we've been here an hour? Seems like we just got started.
Yeah, this
But
was really
it
good.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. It has been an hour, but it's flown by. I appreciate being on.
Yeah. So definitely tell us how we can follow you, where we can find your music, your comic books that are already in production. So make sure you tell us all about that.
You can find me on Instagram at I am Slow Chemical. I'm even if I'm not active posting there, I do post a lot of stories. A lot of people DM me all the time with stuff. I do respond back. You can also check out my comic books on Google Play, Civilized Savage at Google Play, Messina at Google Play. Once you put in Ryan White, or once you even look at one of my comics, literally you see all of them together at the same time. So you have your pick and choice. And if you guys have any questions about it, hit me up. I can lead you towards my favorites, towards the ones that I like. It also depends on your taste. And the debut album, End of November, The Uninvited Guest, October 16th, Messina issue 6. I'm excited about both of them. And thank you for being on. Let me be on again. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. You are welcome. I always enjoy the interview because you're always doing such exciting things. And I think, even when we hear people doing exciting things, we hear people pushing past their limits, it reminds us, okay, we can do this too. So I appreciate you imparting into the Making Connections family, which you are a part of now. We cousins. Maybe I'll see you at a Comic Con one day.
Hope so.
Yeah, so again, really keep us posted on when the everything drops. So just like we do the commercials for other people, we'll make sure that we get get it out there to the audience and let them know as well. But if y'all really want to know when everything's dropping, I suggest you just go follow him. Don't rely on us, but just follow Slow Chemical. So I am Slow Chemical at Instagram.
Yes,
And
yes.
you guys know we are making connections with Aly. We're here again every Saturday at 12 noon, every Monday at 2. And then we play these cool replays at 7 p.m. on Thursdays. So make sure you tune in. You know, we're still on our journey to 1,000 followers. So I believe we can make that happen before the end of the year. Follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel because the shows are always, sometimes people will be like, I missed the show. And I'm like, well, it's on the Facebook page and it's on YouTube, so you can still go see the replay. So just, go back and hashtag replay and let us know that you tuned in. So, Slow Chemical, thank you again. Again, keep us posted on what's going on. We're definitely big fans, and so I'm looking forward to everything dropping this year. And so I will be reaching out to you about idea I had rolling around as you was talking. Some stuff we can do together. But again, and if you can't find Soul Chemical, his manager is Jonathan Coleman, some guy named Jay. Or on Instagram, he's J for now, FOR now. So I'll put all that in the description of the video so you'll know how to follow him. But thank you again. You take care. Best of luck to everything you have going on.
Thank you so much. Talk
Yeah.
soon.
All right. And so, as always, until next time, we're leaving you with love, positivity, and good vibes. Have a great day, everybody.